This next presentation is going to go over safe work permitting fundamentals. What are work permits and why do we use them? So a work permit is a document. Um, it is required before certain types of work are completed. For example, maintenance, lockout, tagout sort of things require a permit. The document just states how the work is going to be organized in order to prevent injury. It provides direction and informs both those working on the equipment and those who usually run the equipment about what's about to happen. So permit rules. Work permits are required for most jobs at our plant that involve lockout tagout. If lockout tagout is performed, a permit has to be issued unless the job is listed in a special exclusions list. But anything that we deal with lockout tagout, does require like a permitting process. Permits can only be authorized by a qualified Celanese employee. The person who writes the permit is known as a permit issuer. Cannot also be the person who does the work, permit receiver. So we want one person, preferably like a supervisor of the job, issuing the permit, and that should not be the person that's doing the work. This prevents the repair from occurring without informing all of those impacted. We have a few different kinds of permits. First type of permit is a cold work permit. That's a repair that does not create enough heat or sparks to ignite flammable gas or air mixtures, material, or dust. There's also a hot work permit. That would be for work that creates an ignition source where flammable materials and gases are present. Think like welding. Work in a process area that has the potential to start a fire or explosion, opening a junction or electrical box in a process area, or work that exposes energized wiring or serviced equipment. So work that requires a permit would be most of the hot work done on site. So, like I said, anything requiring lockout, tagout, whenever you're having to override a safety critical device like an emergency stop, when you're using equipment that creates a hazard. Also, OSHA requires that you have a work permit for OPE, which stands for the opening of pipe, vessels, or equipment to the atmosphere. Opening pressurized equipment, you should have a permit, or working around or with toxic substances also requires a permit. And then if you're in confined spaces, that meets the OSHA's definition of a confined space, that also requires a permit, like excavation work or any type of work where the access or escape routes are blocked. We also do require a permit for even walking into any one of the lags. So you cannot cross the plane of the front of the lag and walk into it without a permit. All site-wide work activities also require a permit. Those type of activities might be hoist inspections, road work, storm water cleaning, yard work, rail system repairs, or site utilities work. So there's some definitions you need to know. One of those definitions is effective personnel. So that's just the employee whose job it requires him to operate the equipment that's being worked on. And then you have the authorized person. That's a person who completes the lockout tagout procedure on the equipment in order to isolate the energy during maintenance. You have change management. That's the process used to evaluate changes to a process or equipment. You have classified area. That's an area where fire or explosion is possible as a result of sparks, electricity, vapor release, spill, or dust accumulation. Competent is defined as a person who has demonstrated abilities, knows how to perform the task correctly. Confined space entry is when any part of the body breaks the plane defining the boundary of a confined space. Energy isolation is the separation of a source of energy to protect personnel performing work on the equipment. The method used to control the energy is based on the severity of the hazard exposure. You have your individual lock, which is a gold lock that is attached to an individual, typically the permit receiver, and can only be removed by that person unless management follows steps outlined in the lotto procedure to override the gold lock. Then you have the permit issuer on our site that will have a red lock. and that's a person trained and qualified to issue work permits. Permits may only be issued by a Celanese employee. You have a permit receiver, and that is the person or group of maintenance workers for the purpose of permitting. They are responsible for placing their lock on the energy isolating devices, verifying that the energy is controlled, and communicating to work crew members any hazards to be expected and signing the permit. Another definition that's important with what we do is troubleshooting. So that just means a systematic search for the source of a problem to repair a failed machine. Failed machinery may only require minor adjustments, which occur during normal operations and may not require LOTO under OSHA's minor servicing exception. But please note, once parts needing replacement are identified and need to be changed, the job is no longer considered minor. So if you're having to change out a part from the machine in order to get it to work, it does need to be locked out. So the following qualified Celanese personnel are authorized to issue permits in the areas that they control and own. That would be Celanese process technicians, maintenance technicians, lab technicians, the FLS or the team captain, their step-up supervisors, and then their assigned project leads. These personnel have passed training in safe work permitting, LOTO, and OPE and confined space entry in order to issue permits. Work permits responsibility. So the team captain or the FLS is responsible for reviewing and approving changes to the job scope prior to work, and they ensure all approvals are changed. So if while working on something, they realize that the fix that they had originally been permitted for isn't working, and the team captain has to re-review and approve any changes that are going to be made to the work plan. The permit issuer determines the type of authorization, either verbal or work permit, required for the job. They write the detailed work description on the permit. They communicate the work and safety needs to the permit receiver, verify that the energy sources are isolated, cancels work permits as needed, conducts return to service tests when work is complete, communicates incomplete work details, and all times recorded on the permit must be in the military time format. You have the permit receiver. So the permit receiver receives work needs and safety concerns from the issuer, reviews all permit and procedure JLA instructions for the job and adds any changes, does a joint job safety visit with the issuer. So both people go out to the job site to ensure all the energy sources are isolated. They complete the receiver goes ahead and completes their repair or stops work when they cannot conform to the plan that was made. They notify the permit issuer when the work is complete or if they are unable to finish. We also have something called fire watch. So during hot work like welding, where flammable materials are present, there must be a person standing by for fire watch. Only employees who have had the global module training for fire watch may act as fire watch. So that would not be any Spherion employees. That would only be a Celanese employee. To summarize everything we've just talked about, we do use work permits at our site. They essentially are a supervisor telling a person performing maintenance or work on a piece of equipment how they want them to perform that work, and ensuring that the work they're going to do has all energy isolated and all hazards identified. And then the permit receiver does the work and communicates back with the issuer if they're able to complete the job or not, and then we go from there. The only areas we really run into this and what we do, like I said, would be entering in lags. We cannot enter in any of the lags for any reason without a work permit, which would be issued by a Celanese employee. So thank you for your attention, and there is a test that follows this presentation.